In the stock world, one of the terms that you may hear on a regular basis is TTM, trailing 12 months. So you may hear things like this is the EPS of a company on a TTM basis. This is the return on invested capital for a company on a TTM basis. So in this video, I want to share with you the meaning of TTM when it comes to the stock market, as well as how you can calculate TTM metrics for yourself and how you can get them automatically on your spreadsheet. Okay, so first let's start by discussing the meaning of TTM. So TTM stands for trailing 12 months, and TTM is the abbreviation. And this is a term used to describe the past 12 consecutive months of a company's performance data. These figures are very useful to be able to compare the performance of different companies, because the reality is that different companies have different fiscal years. And so when you have a TTM metric, it allows you to more easily compare those companies without the numbers being swayed by things like seasonality or anything like that. And this is going to make a little bit more sense as we dive into the calculation of this metric for different items of the financial statements. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the financial statements for Apple, and this is the company that we're going to use as an example. I'm going to select quarterly data. You can also select annual data, but this is more relevant to be able to explain the meaning of TTM. And the way that this works is that this is using the Y-Sheets add-on. There's a lot of tutorials that you can check out on Y-Sheets on our channel, so check those out if you're interested. But in this case, what we're gonna do is first we're gonna get all the financial statements. So now we have the income statement, the balance sheet, and the cash flow, which are the absolute most important financial statements for assessing companies. And what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna illustrate how you calculate the TTM numbers for the different financial statements. So for example, here we're looking at Apple's, and this is the income statement. Let's say that we want to get the revenue of the company for the trailing 12 months, the last 12 months. All you have to do in that case is very simple. You would just get the data for the past 4 months. And so in that case, what we would do is select this, sum the numbers. And in this case, this would be Apple's revenue for the past 12 months. And as you can see, this is a very simple calculation to make. All you have to do is take the quarterly numbers and sum the last 4 quarters, and that is essentially how you get the TTM revenue for Apple. If you wanted to get the EPS, you would do the same thing. You would sum the past 4 quarters of the company. Now, where it gets a little bit more tricky is when you're trying to calculate the TTM value for specific ratios. So in this case, we have the operating income ratio, which you can calculate very simply by taking the operating income and dividing it by the total revenue of that particular company. The thing is, if you want to get the TTM value, you can't just simply take the sum of the past 4 quarters. In this case, you would get 119. This doesn't make any sense. Now you may think, oh, what if I divide it by 4? And this is a good test, so this is what we're going to do. So in this case, you get 29.93%, but the proper way to calculate this ratio is to do this. So you would take the sum of the operating income on a TTM basis, which is basically the last 4 quarters, and you would divide this by the sum of the revenue in the same past 4 quarters. So now you would just do this. And as you can see, the number is somewhat similar, but at the same time is different, right? So you want to make sure that you're able to calculate these values properly. And this is how you do it. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is to move into how to calculate the values for the balance sheet. Okay, so as you can see, here's the balance sheet for Apple on a quarterly basis. And the great thing about TTM numbers for the balance sheet is that it's super simple to calculate. There's literally nothing to calculate. That's the answer. The way you get these numbers is by simply taking the value from the last quarter. So if you wanted to know the cash and cash equivalents for Apple, All you would have to do is pick the value from the last quarter, which you can see in this case is right here. And that's pretty much it. You can do the same for all the different values. And the reason why this happens is that the balance sheet gives you a snapshot at any given period of time of a particular company, what it owns versus what it owes to other people. And so the most accurate way to calculate that is by taking the most recent values. So that is super simple to do. And with that being said, now we're going to move on to the cash flow statement. Okay, so moving into the cash flow statement, the cash flow statement again is super simple. All you have to do once again is just to add the last 4 quarters of whatever metric you're looking for. So in this case, let's say that we want to get the TTM metric for the operating cash flow. So you would just sum these numbers. And just like that, you're going to be able to get the TTM metric for this particular value. The cool thing is that this exact simple formula works for all of the different items of this financial statement. The last type of TTM metric that you might hear of is TTM metrics. So in this case, this comes from Y-Sheets again, and you can see a whole bunch of key metrics. In this case, the values are on a historical quarterly basis. So in this case, we have the revenue per share and what the value was for the different quarters. What I want to share with you is more specifically, how do you calculate certain types of key metrics? So in this case, I want to focus on the PE ratio, and we're going to calculate this metric on a TTM basis. And the other metric that's quite helpful is the return on equity. So I want to walk you step by step through how you can calculate both of these metrics on a TTM basis. So starting with the PE ratio, if you remember the PE ratio formula, it is quite simple. What you need to do to calculate this value is to take the company's stock price and divide that by the earnings per share of that particular company. In order to do that on a TTM basis, what you have to do is this. So the company stock price, we're gonna get it using Y-Sheets. And we can use this formula to get it right away. We're gonna format this as a dollar. We're gonna format this as a dollar amount. And now all we need to do is to take the EPS. So for the EPS on a TTM basis, it's very simple. Remember, we're just gonna sum the past 4 quarters. Here we go. And now with this being calculated already, we can calculate the PE as the price divided by the earnings per share on a TTM basis. And this will be the exact PE value of Apple at the time that I'm recording on a TTM basis. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna calculate the return on equity on a TTM basis. So if you remember the formula for the return on equity, it is very simple. All you have to do is take the net profit of the company and divide it by the total shareholders' equity. How do you do that on a TTM basis? Well, it's very simple. So first, we need the net profit on a TTM basis. So what we could do is, based on what we learned, we just sum the last 4 quarters of data for Apple. And this is gonna give us the net profit on a TTM basis. And now all we have to do is to find the total stockholders' equity on a TTM basis, which is the same as the latest value. Once we have that, if we wanna calculate the return on invested equity, the formula is quite simple. So now we just take the net profit divided by the total shareholders' equity, and this would be the value. If we express that as a percentage, here it is. The last thing that I want to share with you, and I think this is going to be incredibly valuable for you, is how do you get this TTM metrics on your spreadsheet without having to go through the pain of copy pasting the data or manually calculating these values for yourself. So the way to do that is to use Y-Sheets. And if you go on Y-Sheets, you can go to the Wise function. This is going to show you how the function works. And what I have here is a list of different companies. And then we have here a list of different metrics and values that we can get from those companies. So what I'm going to show you is how you can get the data for those companies on a TTM basis, so that way you can easily compare the companies right on your spreadsheet and find the best potential investment opportunities. So the way you do that is you use the WISE function, enter the symbol, and then parameters, so we can enter all of these parameters. The period, in this case we want the TTM value, and as you can see, just like that, you're gonna be able to get the output that you're looking for without having to calculate any of these values yourself. Now what we can do is lock in the formulas like this. And once we have this, we can simply drag this down, so that way Excel picks up all of the different companies that we have. And just like that, the best part about this is that you can do this across any of the items of the income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, key metrics, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff. You can go on our website to see what data is available. So I hope you found this really valuable. Now you know everything that you do need to know about TTM and what it means, how you can use it, how you can take advantage of these metrics to make good investment decisions. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notifications on, so that way you get notified every time we release a video like this. That's gonna allow you to take your investing game to the next level. I'll see you in the next one.